Commissioner Mays.
See that? Okay.
It was sticky on your.
All right. I would have noticed that.
Oh,
See?
oh, it's
Got
in
it?
there.
Okay.
Oh, we
kinda
can't
odd.
go yet.
I hadn't
We have
seen
to wait
that,
till
so
Commissioner.
Oh, okay.
I figured I was gonna be the last one in here, so.
He's in his office working. He's coming.
All rise. All right, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good morning. Welcome to the March 21st Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners meeting. I'm Aaron Mays, the chair this year, representing District 3. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1, and on my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 2. First item, please.
Item 3, consent agenda.
We have 4 items on the consent agenda. I would move for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Okay, under building maintenance, Turf Field USA, Inc., totaling $127,042.76 is for final payment for turf project at Lake Shawnee Softball Complex and Bettis Family Sports Complex multi-use field. Also under building and maintenance, MCON, Inc., $25,820 is for repairs to the Gage Park Dam stormwater overflow. Under county project, licensing for some security was $55,931. Under detention facility, paid with ARPA and SLF EF funds, Meridian Roofing Solutions, $39,738.70 is for final payment for roof replacement of Juvenile Detention Center and East Addition of Adult Detention Center. So as of March 18th, 2022 at 12:12 p.m., it's $1,452,105.47 total vouchers. If there's no questions or comments, I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon and seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, Department of Corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-85-2022 with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for the detection and mitigation of COVID-19 in confinement facilities program to assist in providing the needed resources to maintain testing programs in high-risk settings with high-risk populations. The program will run through July 31st, 2024.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is just an outstanding opportunity for Shawnee County to partner with Kansas Department of Health and Environment to continue our mitigation when it comes to the COVID pandemic. Even though that we have lifted some of the restrictions, we still see inmates that do come in that do have symptoms. We are continuing to test, and we're going to continue to test for a great deal even throughout this whole year. It's just as a precaution. We still know that the virus is still out there. This grant allows us, from Kansas Department of Health and Environment, allows us to be reimbursed up to $100,000 for throughout the next 2 years for any type of testing. We plan to use this to offset medical costs to test our inmates and staff if needed. Again, we've worked very closely with Betty Greiner and her group, Andrea Forbes, and this contracting grant has gone through Jim Crowell. We wanted to make sure that we were able to meet and exceed all the expectations regarding this, and I believe and I'm very confident we can. Again, this is an opportunity for us. There is no match or anything like that from Shawnee County. This is just an opportunity to continue our mitigation and our obligation to make sure people are safe and healthy. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Commissioner Rippon?
Do we test for any other issues that the inmates may have?
Mandatory TB with our, there, we do all pregnancy stuff when come in on female inmates. Juveniles, we do a few other things. We have seen in the last week, we did have several that came down with flu, so we do test for flu, and this is helping us to mitigate that, because we did have about 8 inmates that had flu at one time, which we go through the same thing. This testing allows us to catch the flu as well. So, but we do, as part of our National Commission on Correctional Health Care, we have our intake assessments, but we do test for those automatically for those kind of things. And then when people come down with symptoms, or if they have reason to believe, maybe it could be HIV or something like that, we will test for them.
Thank you.
Okay. Brian, is Corizon the one that administers all these?
Yes, this will work through Corizon. That was one of our issues, to make sure that the health department, or Kansas Department of Health and Environment, was okay with the contracted health service. They absolutely are, because the majority in Kansas that are doing this have contracted health services. So Corizon is on board. They were at the very beginning of this, talking and meeting with Kansas Department of Health and Environment.
Okay, well, that was going to be my next question, so.
Yes.
Good job answering that ahead of time. So, any other questions for Brian? All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Number 2, consider approval of request to create specifications and solicit bids for Phase 2 of the roof project, approved by the Sparks Committee and approved to utilize American Rescue Plan funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is our request to maintain transparency and to ensure that we're following the policy procedure for purchasing. We're asking to be able to go out for bids regarding the Phase 2 and specifications of the roofing project. I met with each of you individually regarding this matter and the steps that had been taken and needed to be taken, and we wanted to make sure that we got this step taken first. I did meet with Betty, who was able to work with us to let us know to make sure we got this on the agenda. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Brian?
Nope. I'll move for approval. Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
One thing I do want to say is that we do expect, I believe, and I can't remember, Betty, I think it was $600,000 is what was approved by the health, or the Sparks Committee, that I would expect this may, because of supply and demand, this could come in a little bit higher. And so if this is approved, and obviously it was, then we would go back in front of the Sparks Committee for any increase. So I just wanted to let you know.
All right, I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. Next item.
Item C, Audit Finance. Number 1, preliminary 2021 financial report of expenses and revenues.
Good morning, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. And today I have the preliminary financial overview for the year of 2021. It is a preliminary review because it is not final until the audit is complete. I do not expect any dramatic changes to it, but want to, make sure everyone understands that this is preliminary just until the audit is complete. So we will start with revenues. For the year, we received revenue of $110,857,863. That was $1,478,028 over what was budgeted. That is 1.35%. As you all know, I like for us to try to stay, within around 1%, because I think that gives us a good cushion when we're looking at our finances. And this year, it is just slightly over that at 1.35%. 1.35%. I will go through the different categories and where that budget variance falls, but this chart just shows the total revenue and how much of that comes from the different segments. And you can tell that property tax is the largest one, and we will start with that. We received $83,942,296. That is $613,000 over budget, and most all of that, $514,000, was from delinquent taxes that were paid. When we were working on the budget on this, and when I was estimating the delinquent taxes that would be paid, I didn't know what the economy would be for 2021, and so I underestimated that a little bit. So I would say that's a good thing. Okay, next is other taxes. We received $17,343,500. That is $725,000 over budget, and most of that, $529,000 of that, is from motor vehicle fees. Next category are charges for services. Received $5,680,418. That is $233,000 under budget, and that is made up of a real variety of things. Some items are over budget, some items are under budget. So I'm going to kind of go through the major ones here. DOC was under budget by $503,000 because there were not as many inmates coming in for other organizations. Planning was over budget by $59,000 because of permits. Parks and Rec was under $214,000, and then Register of Deeds was over $845,000. So because of all of the housing activity. So, you know, as a group, charges for services were under budget by $233,000, but that doesn't really tell the whole story. You have to look and see at all the different components that made up that amount. And then the last category is other revenue. We received $3,891,649. That was $372,000 over budget, and the majority of that, in fact, $428,000 was penalties and interest that came in over budget, because as you have delinquent taxes that are come in over budget, the penalty and interest on those delinquent taxes also comes in over budget. So this chart just is the pie chart, and it shows that 76% of all of our revenue came from property taxes, 16% from other taxes, 5% from charges for services, and 3% from other revenue. Any questions on the revenue before
Yes.
I go on?
Mr. Chairman. Betty, can we go back to the other revenue?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a moment about why in 2020 there was $9,823,000, and then that dropped down in 2021 to $3,891,000?
That was because CARES Act money that we
Okay.
received.
So in 2021, the CARES Act would not have been, or the ARPA would not have been received, so that will be then reflected on 2022.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Then that's the only question I had.
Okay, we will go on to expenditures. The total expenditures for the year were $112,948,044. That is $1,755,125 over budget, or under budget, under budget, and that is about 1.5%. So there again, we're a little exceeded my 1% a little bit that I like to see. This chart just shows the total expenditures and how these different categories stack up. Our first category we'll look at is law enforcement. We spent $55,682,000 $626,509. That is $878,000 under budget. And most of that's really in two areas. The sheriff's office was $419,000 under budget, and the courts was $244,000 under budget. I think we all know that the courts, they were not able to have court as much as they would have liked to in 2021. But I also want to point out that even though we are under budget on this, we still spent $3,952,000 more than we did in 2020. So almost $4 million more than we spent the prior year. Next category is recreation. We spent $15,975,565. That is $85,000 under budget, so in that category, right on budget. I will say that this is just for the general fund. Later, I will talk about all of the monies that were spent for Parks and Rec. And this one also, even though we are under budget, we spent $1,087,000 more than we had spent the prior year. Public Works, we spent $11,692,659, and that is $112,000 under budget, which was mostly attributable to the appraiser's office. And I will say too, in the Public Works part of this, I will address that also later on, the different funding sources that we have for Public Works. This is only for the general fund. Public Health, we spent $8,063,766. That is actually $3,210,000 over budget. That is because there were some expenses in the coroner's office that we were required to spend by state statute, and that was higher than
You said
budgeted.
$3 million. I
Oh,
believe
what
you
did I
meant
s-
3,000.
3,000, yes, $3,210. Yes, a little bit different. Thank you so much. And in this category too, we did spend $243,000 more than the prior year. The next category is administrative services. We spent $3,378,581. That is $164,000 under budget, and that was really just spread among all of the different departments. Were not any specific departments that made up that amount. And this, we actually spent $319,000 less than the prior year. Last category is debt service. We spent $8,210,963. That is $517,000 under budget, and as we've talked, that is because there was new debt that we had budgeted for that we did not issue. This chart just shows the different categories, and I think this one really shows how the different categories line up as far as expenses. This really shows that law enforcement is by far the largest category. It is 3.5 times higher than our next category, which is recreation. So it just kind of shows that in a good picture, I think. The next is our pie chart that shows 49% of our expenditures are in the law enforcement category. Next highest category is recreation with 14%, public works is 11%, public health 7%, administrative services at 12%, and debt service at 7%. And that debt service at 7%, sometimes depending on when we have paid interest and principal, that percentage goes up and down, but 7% is a very healthy percentage for us to be paying on debt service. When you look, well, any questions on the expenditures before I talk about the overall general picture?
Not from me.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Betty, I think this is probably where you're going next, but even though our income or revenue was higher than what we budgeted, and even though our expenditures were less than what we budgeted, we still were $2,090,181 expenses over revenue, which means we had to take the money from somewhere to make up that difference.
Yes.
And if I recall, we had talked about drawing that from our reserves, and just, is that?
That is correct, yes. For the year, we would have used $2,090,181 of reserves. Now, we had budgeted to use reserves, and we had budgeted that it would be allowable up to $5 million. So what we are showing here, with the revenues coming in higher and the expenditures coming in lower, we actually have a positive actual to budget variance of $3,100,000, which was committed by the commission to future wage increases. So that money, even though it will go in the reserves, it is committed to future wage increases. But as you said, we did use $2 million worth of reserves for the year of 2021.
And for this year, 2022, I believe that we've committed to a little over $7 million in wage increases. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
That's correct.
And so that, I know, discussion factored into the mill levy increase that we had back in August, July.
Yes, very much so, yes.
All right.
And that's too why we've committed these, any positive variance we've committed to future wage increases, because some of that increase is being paid for by ARPA funds, which will only be available through '24. So trying to look ahead, trying to plan for the future for when those funds aren't available, that, the funds will be there for those wage increases that we've already committed to.
All right. Thank you, Betty.
Any other questions on that?
Any questions for Betty? No?
All right. Well then, as I said before, what we were looking at prior, it was just talking about public works and what was coming out of the general fund. As you know, there are a lot of different sources for public works and their projects. So this is just a chart that kind of brings all of those funds together and shows you what has been spent from the different categories and the different funds. We talked about the general fund being the $8,979,000. Their project funds, they spent $7,778,000 for those. The Willard Bridge debt service is $850,000. That is the loan with KDOT, the zero interest loan that we have with KDOT that we're paying over 10 years. The sewer districts and townships, the work that they do on those was $2,394,000. Their special equipment fund was $628,000, and then there was equipment purchased for public works out of the capital outlay fund of $356,000. So the total expenditures for the year for public works was $20,987,461. As you can see, that is more than double of what is just the general fund dollars. So this really gives a better picture of the public works expenditures. Any questions on that?
I have one. Do you know how much longer we have to pay on the Willard Bridge?
I believe we just paid the 5th out of 10.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Okay, and next I'll do the same thing with Parks and Rec, because Parks and Rec has several different funds that they use also. And I have already talked about the general fund. Their Parks and Rec revolving fund, that's the one that has the two golf courses in it. The campgrounds are in that. Those that that Parks and Rec believe can be self-sustaining are in that Parks and Rec revolving fund. They had expenditures of $2,091,507. The Parks and Rec Building Maintenance Fund had expenditures of $728,000. They some years ago, they had been given excess reserves, and they still had some of that money to spend in 2021, and they spent $469,000 of that. And they were also awarded capital outlay funds in the amount, and they spent $1,644,000. And then Parkland acquisition funds, we received those from the city when different areas are improved or developed, and they spent $48,000 of that money. So the total expenditures for Parks and Rec is $19,904,646. Any questions on that?
No.
Or any questions in general?
Any questions in general?
No. Thank you, Betty.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item, please.
Item D, Commission Number 1, consider canceling the April 28th Commission meeting.
Okay, it's my understanding that April 28th, we will all be on the intercity visit. So I would make a motion that we cancel the commission. We don't need to make a motion, do we? Just an announcement or?
Well, I think the clerk would prefer us to make a motion.
Okay, I'll move that we cancel that meeting,
Second.
28th. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 3-0. All right, next item, please.
Item 5, public comment.
All right, public comment. We have John Athan signed up again. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Last week we spoke on the offer that, or the engineer told you about the offer that hadn't been sent out yet. Well, I received it. And places to sign for the deed and such. And I was offered, through all the talking, and I said my thought, my value of the creek and being taken away, and what Jerry and Derek and Amy, I've talked to Derek, and what he thinks the value of, his property is going to go down. And I called Jerry and asked him if he got anything in the mail, and he says he's never talked to anyone at all concerning anything with this project. No one has spoken to him, no one said a word. So if it wasn't for me talking to him and the news people coming out and being in his front yard, he's had more contact about this project from the news than he has from the engineer's office here at Shawnee County. So just want to make that fact known. But I was offered $1 and other enumerations, and before I sign any contract, I would like to know what the other enumerations are. And being that Jerry did not get anything in the mail detailing him what his property value, what he feels his property value is going to go down because of losing the creek. I'm just curious as what the other considerations are before I sign anything. And if you guys looked in your email this morning or Friday, Shane Horsch is not satisfied either. He's he wrote an email to you guys. He said that they should have it, so I don't know if you've read that or not. And then fact is that there's also a detour, because when you're tearing out 69th Street, Shane doesn't know if you're going over on his property or if you're going through my front yard, if that's the reason why the temporary easement is going to be going in there, which means I'm going to have landscaping and limestone and that beautiful rock that's down in Barretton removed from my front yard. So, which is obviously a decorative value, and it's been there for years. So, not knowing what that detour for 69th Street is, because you have Kerry Lidgren that lives down the street there, guy plays for Kansas. He's going to want to have access to Barretton Road and get out. So Shane doesn't know if you're going on his property or if you're going on my property, and we'd like to have that squared away and cleared up. And then also, I stopped by 61st in California and noticed, I was talking with Shane, that there is a box bridge that's exactly what we were talking about, what I've been talking about, that you have to request to go back in there, so that way I don't lose my creek. It's actually perfect for what you guys say that you need for the engineering office. And I looked at 69th and Paulin Road. There's a bridge project over there where not recently, but within the last few years. So when you're talking about highway design and such, you'd think that a few years ago would still be able to be taken into consideration. And there's guardrails right there that would be able to allow us to keep our creek. And the fact is that when I found this house, I didn't look just for a month or for 6 weeks or 3 months like some people do. I looked for years. I mean, years. I looked for years for a place like this that had the creek, that had everything. I went through multiple realtors because they were tired of me not picking a place and buying it. I said, it doesn't have what I want. I was looking at, when the engineer says it's going to have a still water running in the front. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a running creek. I mean, obviously you are, because common sense says you know what a running creek is versus a ditch. And they're going to put a ditch in my front yard and take away that running creek. And the reasons why they're saying that they need to put this turning lane in is for the school. And if you look at the plans and come out and look at where the road goes back east to the school, it does nothing for the school. You're still going to have the same problem out there on Barretton Road, because if you look at where the traffic's at right now, when it backs up, it backs way on further up north than the turning lane. So you're still going to have your problems with being backed up on Barretton Road, because it does nothing to go east to alleviate the problems into the school. And when I talked to Shane about this, they said the engineering office had talked to the school to, then they wanted the turning lane in there, and Shane said that was patently false, that he called the school to ask them, the USD 450, on what plans they had going east, and he said that they told him that they had no contact and they don't require turning lanes for anywhere and have no idea what they're talking about. So my question to you guys is, what are we going to do about this project to remedy the situation? Other neighbors are being aware of it that have not had any knowledge, because there's people on further east that are going to be affected. There's other people in the general area that are going to be affected. And to be able to take care of this, mine is, I would just like to keep my creek or be compensated for the loss of my creek because of the value that I not only place on it, but other people place on it. Because when I was talking to a friend of mine just out of the blue here at church, I said, they're taking my creek from my front yard. He goes, how much are they giving you? I said, just take a guess. He goes, $30,000. And I laughed and I hugged him. And I told him $1 is what I got offered. And he's like, no way. So I just would like to say, dear God, thank you for being here with me. Please go with me as I wish, and help open these guys' eyes to see that the little guy is being stomped on here. So, and that justice prevailed. And that's all I'd like to say. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
All right. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak today? Okay. Next item, please.
Administrative communications.
Any department heads wishing to speak today?
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. I would just like to remind everyone that we do have the Shawnee County Wellness Worksite Survey going on, and it will go on till the 31st. We also have a couple of other events coming up. We have the mobile mammography unit that will be here April 1st and September 30th, and they are taking appointments. We partner with the City of Topeka, so the mobile mammography van excuse me, is right in front of the city building, and it's from 8 to 5. Anyone with insurance can attend. We also have a lunch and learn hydration all about water that will be April 15th from 11:30 to 12:30 at the health department. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good morning, Commissioners. Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities Management. I have another 707 update. I found out Friday that our first furniture delivery is scheduled for tomorrow. We have approximately 800 pieces that will be stored in the basement of 707 until they can be put into place. So if you see a big semi there tomorrow and a bunch of busy bees, it is the first load of furniture, and we will be getting to pay that here in the next couple of weeks. So, have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Betty. Nelda, is the basement of 77 going to be dry enough and moisture, so it's not going to get moldy or damaged, or?
No, it will be on the east side of the basement, and we have no water issues on that side of the basement.
Okay, but as far as humidity goes, there's not going to be any issues?
Should not be any issues, no.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nelda. Anyone else? Okay, Commissioner Rippon?
I don't have much to report. Caught a Tropics game this weekend. It was their first game. Good crowd, and just a fun time for everyone.
It was. Commissioner Cook?
Nothing to update.
All right. Yeah, I also attended the Tropics game, had a blast. My son caught a football. That's always fun. I saw a few of our employees there. Always a good time, and they do have another game Saturday, so hopefully they can get the same attendance they did, because there were a lot of people there. So, all right, that's all I got. Next item, please.
Executive sessions.
We do not have a need for executive session today. Oh, one more thing. He's not here today because he might be celebrating, but Kurt Niehouse's birthday is today. So, but we are adjourned.